Hello, my name is Jeff Pagano, and welcome to Harpin On Rugby, where with the help of some fellow fans, I get the chance to harp on what's going on with Leinster, Ireland, and the wider rugby world. Now, bravely joining me for this therapy session slash podcast are the same pair who covered last year's final, although before any superstitious types go blaming them, I should point out they also covered our quarterfinal and semi-final victories this season. First up, earning his 55th cap is Mr. Tom Coleman. Hello, sir.
Evening, Jeff, and evening, Mark. Here we are again.
And yes, and also toughing it out with us is someone making appearance number 52. Welcome to Mr. Mark Jackson.
Evening, Jeff. Evening, Tom. We go again.
Indeed.
You know, you know, obviously a lot of the criticism or a lot of the hot takes, for want of a better word, is directed at Ross Byrne for his performance. Few issues, yeah, look, few issues to that. I was very impressed with Ross when he played against La Rochelle, and I thought it was a bit of a turning point for him. It looked like he was encouraged to take the ball to the line a lot more aggressively. Now I know he had I don't know if it was a hip injury or abductor injury or something like that. He still looks to me like a fellow that played in the final, that he had a slight niggle. He was very static. He was nowhere near, Ross is not Johnny Sexton, or he's not Jack Crowley. He's not Kieran Frawley, but he was a lighter version of those three players against La Rochelle, where he wasn't afraid to take it to the line and take some heavy hits, because he took some huge hits against, if we remember that game against La Rochelle, Botia creamed them a couple of times, and there was some late, some hard, but he bravely took it to the line, and it made such a difference to our attack. That was non-existent in the final on the weekend. I hate saying it, but it was non-existent. It was very much pass and sling from a static position, and it really made the centres for Toulouse, in the various guys that Toulouse had at centres, a lot easier to sort of swallow up Osborne. And what it meant was that Robbie Henshaw had to do a lot of hard, direct running at players, because the space wasn't been opened up inside him. People might criticize Robbie for going, he's carrying it into contact all the time, but it's, you need to rock and roll the footage and see what's happened before that to see why he's doing that, because he's generally been double tackled, because the defense is allowed to just slot across, and then he's trying to use his physical strength. And he's a great man. He's one of the best men in world rugby to carry the ball in one hand and try and get that offload away. So it did feel like a lot, to the naked eye, or just, not saying the untrained eye, that Robbie was doing a lot of carrying into contact, but he just wasn't been helped by what was been inside of the number from his 10. They knew what was happening every single time. Toulouse knew that the ball was just going to come off Ross. Once or twice he did a few kicks, obviously crossfield kicks, which is a real strength of his. It didn't really pay off. There's one to take to Sheehan nearly in the first half, but no, Ross didn't have a good game. I'd defend him till the cows come home, but sometimes players play well and sometimes players don't play well. I'm not going to sit here and blame Ross Byrne for losing a Champions Cup final, but he just didn't have a good game, and it sort of killed. People say Leinster's attack didn't get going. A lot of it comes from your 9 and 10. Toulouse were well aware of the threat at Gibson Park, and they were able to focus a lot of their attention on Gibson Park and Henshaw, because they were able to slide off Byrne, because they knew what was coming 9 times out of 10. There was a noticeable difference in Frawley's cameo in the second half, where he took the ball to the line a lot more, and it just made the Toulouse defence rethink. Does that mean I think Frawley's a better overall 10? He's a ways to go, because he's, there's game management side of it, and being able to direct that pack around a pitch. They're all things, but you're only going to get that by playing at 10. This is not me asking for some mad wholesale changes for the rest of the season. But I think Ross's injury may open up the door for Leinster having to play Frawley over the next few weeks. That's if he's okay after his knock at the end. But it was noticeable. Look, Ross didn't have a good game. It made a very good Toulouse's defence on the day job easier than it should have been. And it made it harder, especially on his outside centre, on trying to get soft shoulders, and because he was, Henshaw particularly was been double tackled because they see him as such of a running threat and a great recycler of the ball. People say we miss Ringrose, but I think Ringrose would have the same problem. If defenses are allowed slide across from the halfbacks onto the centres, you're going to have the same problem. So, look, it is what it is. I'm sure Ross Bourne won't be bothered about me saying he had a poor game or not. It just I try and call it as it is. Even though I don't like criticizing our own players, because like we'd be having a different conversation if Kieran had pulled that drop goal a foot to right instead of the left, and we wouldn't be talking about it. So fine margins, and you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. But he didn't have a good game.
Yeah.
He was probably left on a bit longer than he should. I couldn't understand why he was hobbling around for about 5 or 6 minutes and ended up even
Yeah,
taking
the injury was 61 minutes, and he didn't come off until I think it was 68, 69.
Yeah,
I couldn't understand that at all.
yeah, and yeah, just those sort of things
Even
baffle me.
even taking that place kick, right? I know it was right under the posts, but why take the risk if you know you're gonna,
Yeah.
if you know what I mean? It's
Well, I
I just
turned around. I turned around to a mate of mine who was at the game with, and I said, "Look, this is the one you need to be given for all.
mm,
You're coming on in front of 62,000. You're a
yep,
youngish guy.
yeah,
Give
set
him
him down.
give him the bloody easy kick where he just has to slot, take a breath, get back in position for a Toulouse restart, and just rather than I had visions of his first kick in the game going to be like from the sideline, and he just didn't have a feel for the moment. So I just thought, look, I thought that was poorly managed from the bench. I don't know how it was decided to just to leave him on. Um, how the game was going is one thing, but to leave him on for another 7 or 8 minutes, it's not a great signal to the guy on the bench. I did look down at Frawley when he had taken his bib off,
Oh yeah, he was ready to come on. He was
ready to come on.
ready to, yeah, yeah.
And look, it's very hard to read. No caring from Scary's, and I'm not from 300 or 400 feet away. I'm not trying to read his body language and tell you exactly what he was thinking. But like, there's disappointment not coming on, but there's a little bit of a head shake going, like as in what the fuck, now's the time for me to come on. The guy can't walk,
Mm.
and I'm sure he was eager to get on, but it just felt like there was a lack of faith in some of the subs. I think some of the substitutions, some of the subs on the bench, there's just a small lack of faith there from Leo. Um, that possibly is a common occurrence now over the last few finals. you know, that's the only criticism I'd have of Cullen, that there's a little bit of lack of faith on some of the players on the bench at key times in big games, that he has full trust in a smaller group of players. Yes, that might be sounding harsh. I'm not one of these asking for Leo's head. Not in the slightest. Leo's done enough for this club over the last 20 years. He's going his own steam. He owes us nothing. So I'm not one of these people that'll be calling for Leo Cullen's head, but I just, if I think something's gone wrong, I'll call it. And I just thought there was a lack
Yep.
of fit in some of the substitutions, and maybe the squad over the wider squad. That may be my only frustration from the game, is that their defense was really super, but we just made it that bit easier for them by how sort of stand and sling our attack was at times.
And Mark,
I usually agree with Tom about 99.99% of the time. I do think Leo has a lot to answer for, especially in terms of his player management. And it's come back to bite him in the arse, not necessarily just on today, but his lack of faith in certain players in certain positions over the season has come back to bite us in the backside. I think, Frawley has shown enough at 10, for me anyway, um, to warrant more game time at that position throughout the season, which is where you build up those minutes of confidence in yourself and as the coach to come on. And as Tom says, stand and sling tens are easily defended. Ross once this season has been La Rochelle, and yeah, he was great in that game, but he's only done it once, and he's not a bad player, but he was rubbish. Not only, as Tom rightly pointed out, he had to stand and sling. If he had an injury already, surely this is where the bench of a 6-2 split, if he's carrying an injury, needs to be questioned. The selection of Connors over, and this is me, I said this at the start when we asked last week, I went for Van der Fleer at 7, and I always will go for a player who's more in tune with how our attack flows than a specific Joe Worsley type chopper. Like Will Connors is a fantastic rugby player, but there was a definite lack of linkage between the forwards and the backs in the entire game. And the two positions there are 10 and 7. And I think we got it wrong. Do I think Ross deserved to start? Yes. But he didn't deserve to play 68 minutes. I thought Kieran Frawley, the second he came on, I think he had 2 second touches in two separate phases of play. And that's a much harder player to defend straight away. You know, the last 10 minutes of that game, we were absolutely all over them, and we should have stuck it away. But the ball got to the edge in the last 10 minutes more than it did in the 70 minutes previously for me. You know, there's a certain reason why we looked like we were getting stronger.
And Frawley's kicking game was on point as well.
He did. He kicked 2 Gary Owens from really odd positions, which both led to advantageous outcomes for us. And people have criticized his kicking game before. As a coach, and just putting your pure coach head on at the moment, not even have the fan about it. I'm a huge Frawley fan, but as a coach, I would pick Frawley every day of the week and twice on Sunday. He has a run pass kick game, right? Ross has a pass game and a kick game. He does not have a run game in any way, shape, or form. That run game not only opens up the channels outside for the centres, it also opens up the channels for Gibson Park. We didn't see any trail running from Gibson Park for 2 reasons. One, because they all drifted onto Ross, and the guys that are in that guard and bodyguard position just grabbed a hold of Gibson Park for half of the game. You know, he struggled to get the ball away cleanly, and those guys just stood in his way. If you've got a 10 who attacks the line either flat, like Ross did against La Rochelle, or puts pace onto the ball and then goes at it, then it just opens up holes all over the shop. And I think that's where Leo let the team down a little bit. He's done unbelievable stuff, don't get me wrong. But we're talking about what have you done for me lately? We've won fuck all for a few years. You know, that's the brass tacks of it. The money we have, the coaches we have, the players we have, it just hasn't been right for the last 18 months, 2 years. You know, there's something lacking. There's just something lacking. And it's not just one player or 2 players. RJ Snyman's not going to fix it. Jordy Barry's not going to fix it, because there has to be something in a coach's head not to trust absolute class players. One's the World Player of the Year, for God's sake. I'm sorry, that guy never doesn't start the Champions League final for me. This is not a slight on Will Connors, but Josh van der Fleer is on a different level. Our attack has stuttered at times this year, and it's basically when Josh is not in the team. He links that play from the line out. He links the play from a carrying point of view, and his turnover game has been a lot better this year as well. He's worked bloody hard on it. We should have won the game in 80 minutes. There's no doubt about it. Frawley was desperately unlucky, and as Tom said, it might have been the right. He struck the ball beautifully. It just was 3 feet to the left-hand side of winning us the 5th star. But as 80-minute goes, we blew it. I do think we had enough of possession.
I just think adding to your point, Mark, I think the lack of trust in the bench is the reason he played Van der Fleer on the bench. I think whatever perception Leo has of his bench players, was probably underlined by the Northampton performance from the sort of 60th minute on. And it sort of compounded, I think, a bias that Leo has on his bench. And he picked
impact.
He picked impact where he felt he had no impact.
It could have been as well. It could have been as well that they were overthinking it as well, though, because I mean, we came into the season clearly with a game plan to beat La Rochelle, and which was going to be a big. It's going to be that was a big deal for us. I mean, that was a monkey we had to get off our back, and it was the only way to get to this final was to get past them. So they obviously settled on Connors to start both those games, and that worked really well. But then they figure, well, I guess that's going to work for the final too. But you're talking a different team, plus it's a final. I mean, it's like you say, you play your best players in the final.
You know, we're overthinking it exactly on that point. I don't give a flying fuck what the opposition do. I want to pick our best team and what suits us more, you know. And I don't know if it's an Ian Aber influence or whatever. You know, I'm sick of winning games by a point or 2 points or 3 points. I'd much rather win a game by 30 points like we used to. And you know, a lot of these, you look at where we've played our best this year against the Bulls at home. You know, you see Josh van der Fleer running into a bloody goalpost to score a try. You know, he's part of everything we've done. And I'm not saying, but didn't Connor start at 6 in one of those La Rochelle games? If I remember, you know, there's no reason why you can't play both of them. And I understand the impact of a game, but of bringing good guys off the bench, you have to start better. You know, we were loose. Our lines of running were off. Timing was off. And I just felt Van der Fleer on from the start would have made a massive difference.
Just on that point, and Mark, we both coach, and you coach at a higher level than I do. But one thing I noticed with Leinster, and maybe, you know, now I have a bias. You know, sometimes you get a bias in your head and you look for stuff to reinforce that bias. One thing I've mentioned before Leinster this year is that no matter what level you coach at, and you're doing drills in coaching, you always you know, you've got your inverted commas, your first 15. But you always make sure you run those drills with the guys or the girls that are coming off the bench. So you're gonna, you know, Kate, you're gonna come in at 6, or Ellen, you're gonna come in at 7, or Jim, you're gonna come in at 8, and we'll run the same drill so everybody knows. At times it strikes me that Leinster lose something when they're running. I don't know if they do 15 against 15. That it seems from the outset, and this is probably arsehole wrong, but I'll say it anyway. It feels like they're not slotting in the players that are on the bench into the same drills as much as they used to. And why I believe that. Sorry, Mark. Why I believe that is because Leinster completely lose their pod shape when the bench comes on. It happened against Northampton. We completely get, and this is where you end up. People go, "How do you know that?" Or "Why do you think that?" We ended up getting isolated runners, and the penalties we gave away in the death in extra time, Keane Healy in particular, you're just an isolated player, not in any sort of pod. Now, people might say they're tired, they're this, but these are still people coming off the bench, so they shouldn't be as tired. I'm not getting a Keane Healy in particular, but if you freeze frame Healy, he's not. There's no shape around him. So therefore,
he's not in the same positions.
He's not in the same position. So
it didn't look like he wanted the ball at that particular moment.
No, that looks, from a coaching point of view, it just looks like you're running all these drills with your first 15, maybe first 18 players, but the extended squad from 19 out to 35 or whatever, it doesn't like you're slotting those guys in regular enough that they know.
It comes down to that NFL term, reps. How many reps are they getting? You know, my philosophy is, let's say on my first team and second team and third team, the third team playbook's that big. The second team playbook's that little bit bigger. The first 15 is the bigger playbook. But you have to have everybody from your third 15, your second choice to your first choice, running certain plays again and again and again and again and again. And I thoroughly agree 100% with you on that. Some guys just don't look comfortable in certain positions. When push comes to shove, you know, it doesn't it doesn't add up. I would agree with you on that. There might be, and the way I look at it is, yeah, they've got a preseason where they'll focus on their running, their sprinting, their lifting, but they have enough of time during the season and during the week to get everybody ample time in these rep situations that they should be able to do it. It's like if the biggest change for me is always when Tyke Furlong is off and Alato is on.
Yeah.
You don't see 5As pulling passes back. All the guy does is hit rucks and run forward. There's no
Yeah.
subtlety to his game. No offense, he does it well.
But it's like
But
he's not repping.
Tyke
That's
has
the point I'm
everything in the
making. It's like he's not repping those either.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
when he does come on, he's it's because I know we want to move off and finish the game, but all the way for the last sort of 10 years is because the coaching is passed down from the headquarters all the way down to the clubs and the underage players in Leinster from under 16, under 17. This inverted commas a Leinster way. You're already making players to come up through both pyramids in club and schools in the sort of and if there's a revolutionary way that they're dealing with rucks or whatever the case may be, it's filtered down through the province. I think a combination of new coaching in defence and attack and both of them missing for sort of 30% of the season was the World Cup. When I mean 30% of the season starts on the 1st of July, not in the 1st of September when there's a game. I
Yeah.
think that did have an effect on maybe some of the problems that we're outlining at the moment on just games plan sort of and cohesion
The accuracy of our game plan seems to have gone backwards in terms of line out, maul,
yeah.
and general shape, as we like to term it.
But look, it'll be interesting to see how the rest of the season goes on. But willpower and desire will always be, I won't say second best and third best, but the game plan and being comfortable at that game plan, if that's not there, especially by the guys coming off the bench, it's very hard to make up to that and make up the difference in pure will to win. Especially at the top level where the will to win on both sides is just minuscule. There's hardly any difference between both teams. And it comes down to just being a bit more comfortable in the systems. Toulouse guys seemed a bit more comfortable in their own system when they came on, and it didn't look like you were missing Peter Aki when they went off. He's a really underrated player. It didn't look like. So look, it'll be again. We'll see. I'll try and look at it open eyes for the rest of the season. Whatever rest of the season is left and see. But look, I've seen it against Northampton, seen it against Leicester, and I've seen it against Toulouse. It's reinforcing. Maybe it's a bias there that I have, and I just have to be open minded about it. But it's hard to not think it when you see it more than once.